Well, hi everybody. Welcome to my channel. Hey, I got 4 subscribers and some views. So I'm doing good. I'm off to a good start. But hey, this is not being sarcastic. You 4 subscribers, don't unsubscribe. Please, I need you. I can't go back down to 0. Anyway, just carrying on from we left off from our last show. I was talking about scratch building and various stages. It was a little mixed up. Hopefully people got an idea. But one of the things I said is, you need, when you're scratch building, you need to be collecting stuff. Wires, junks, apparently old phones, bits of rocket. Should I open that one? Yeah, why not? Look at this. I got wheels, bridges, pieces of plastic toys, you name it. And yeah, some wheels, some concrete mold. Molding for rock work and what have you. Styrene, and I do collect a lot of this sort of stuff. When you go out and buy a pie or something from the supermarket, and you get these clear, pieces of plastic and what have you that the product comes in, keep them, because when it comes to Anderson vehicles and curved windows, this stuff's magic. And I'll go into that a bit more probably in another show. But what else have we got that's interesting? Did that one. Power tools at the bottom. No, not a lot. Okay, I'll just move around to my model desk. Now this is probably one of the tidiest model desks you've seen for quite a while. Thank you, I have to agree. Nothing really has been happening here, which means this has just been sitting here for a couple of years like this. No, not really. I was doing some stuff and just getting to the point where I can't be bothered cleaning up. So to carry on further from the fact that when we were looking at this Fireflash in its production stage in the middle, I was talking about balsa wood being the substructure and how to get templates and use the balsa wood and build it up and sculpt it and everything. I just thought I'd show you this because it gives you an idea. I'm sure non-scratch builders already know that models and what have you are covered in some sort of plastic or some smooth surface or resin, fiberglass. But here's a typical example of a rifle I was building that is commissioned, but it collapsed. Basically, didn't happen. This is out of Star Wars, one of the new movies, and basically if you have a look at it, you'll see inside there's a lot of balsa wood, and when you got recesses like this, that have all these different shapes, it's not by accident. Basically there's balsa wood behind there with a hole cut in it, whatever, and then you just fill a piece of plastic in there and you put a piece over the top, cut out the same. I think I even may have ended up putting little inserts of plastic around each edge, because that's quite deep and this one isn't, so I didn't do that. Here definitely, and you can see I've got lines across there if you look closely, and that's where ribs go, because basically when you hold this big Star Wars rifle, this is the front half, you put your hand under it. So the reason I'm using this as an example is it's got a little bit of everything on it. Something in there from a plastic toy. The other side, as you can see, it's just hollow balsa wood. So what I do in there is just put a piece of flat styrene in the middle and each piece along the side, super glue it, and then it's quite rough. So what you do is you use the polyfiller to sort of to finish the edges. Like all these edges here were once just open, and here, but putting polyfiller in just with a knife blade or whatever, putting it in, let it set and sanding it off, then you got a nice piece of styrene, and you get shapes, and you get more complicated shapes. Then you go to your local plastic wares places, and you look for, if you don't already have a pile of that stuff, you look for what this is, the nose of the gun. As you can see, its original template was a rod that goes through it, and a piece of balsa wood to give them an idea of where the rifle ends. So what happens is, at this particular rifle, it tapers down to the front where it fires out, and it's all burnt around here, you know, from a laser blast. So this is Star Wars, it's not Gerry Anderson, but I picked it up because I just realized that I was working on it some time ago, and it's got the typical way that I would scratch build, and probably a lot of other people. I didn't reinvent the wheel here, and this is big. This is actually quite big compared to the models I do. You know, if I was holding this would be like 2 or 3 foot long rifle with a shoulder strap. And as you can see, I've done the detail on top of it, drawn it on, ready for the various greeblies and things that sit on the top, including a sight scope. But anyhow, that's on the back burner. I just thought I'd show you that because that is also a very similar way of creating something like Skythrust or any other model that I might do. You know, when you've been working with models long enough, you end up with bags of offcuts, and no matter how small they are, of plastics or plastic card, I don't throw them away. You'd be surprised how they can sit here for years. But also, oh, I need a strip, and there's one that thick there. Like, you know, I want that trim in there. That's just one bag, by the way. I've got heaps of that sort of stuff. Also, you know, you've got trays of paints and stuff like that. All the things you need. We got some graphic paper here in red, which I was using for a big project. But, you know, you can cut that stuff down to strips. You know, like this. It's got a backing, you just peel it off, and you know, you can cut that down. I haven't got any examples here, but you can cut that down to like 1mm. So if you want to do a trim around a plane rather than try and paint it, graphic sticker from your local sign shop, just go in there and, you know, don't say I want a sign built. You just say, can I please have 1/2 meter or 1 meter of whatever color you want. I think they call it cal or graphic sticker, and it's actually a lot better quality than you'd buy in a model shop. And if you're doing a lot of models with red, it definitely comes in handy if you get like 1/2 meter. Yeah. So I was also talking about paint. Obviously, one of the things, you know, I talked about using rattle cans, is what you call them. We just call them spray cans. I've turned to Rust-Oleum, which is a brand here. We don't have Halfords over here or whatever that everyone seems to use. It doesn't really matter as long as it's you know, it's good quality paint. I actually don't use Dulux, if you've heard of it, because they dry up halfway through the can every time. I never have a problem with Rust-Oleum brand or White Knight, which you probably may not get over there, but that's the stuff I use. That's comes in gloss and satin, and I'll often finish spray coating a model, you know, normally about not in metric, 7 inches away or something like that. Just put on layer after layer to finish it. Now the reason why I'm bringing up paint, and here's another one, flat white primer. If I wanted, and I've done this before, I can just use undercoat directly sprayed on the balsa wood and the plastic. You don't have to prime it, and it doesn't come off. My models are years old, and they prove that. But if you decide, you know, even with a 12-inch model like the Fire Flash, scratch built one, you know, like the one I just showed you, and that gun or anything of that size, you don't need, you know, you don't want to be undercoating that stuff with airbrushes and stuff. And the reason why you'd use something like a flat primer or just an undercoat is because you put it on thick. Okay, so when you're putting your paint job on, your final paint job color, you know, you'd put that on fairly thin coat at a time and hope the heck you don't get drips, and warm up the can in a saucepan of hot water, or if it's a really hot day, you can just leave it on a concrete deck, and that's good enough, and then give it a good shake, and it'll come out way better when you're spraying than if you were doing it in the cold. So that's really important. That's the tip most people know. You probably already know that, even if you're not a new model maker. But it's especially good for balsa wood, because what it does is, as you put a coat on, and you don't really have to put one coat on, then another coat and another coat, thin, you can actually do it quite thick. Because what you're really doing is almost like you were dipping something in resin, but you're spraying it on. You really, its coat ends up like an eggshell, so you lay it on thick. So something like the submarine, just say that I'd got the submarine all smooth and finished, and all the cracks and things, like joints, filled. I'd give it like 3 or 4 really heavy coats of spray and have it outside for a day, because it's going to stink. You don't even have to worry when you're using primer and what have you about lumps and bumps, because they can be sanded off. But if you try and sand them too early, it's kind of sticky. But you'll still end up with these little cracks showing. So after you've done a prime or an undercoat or whatever, just to soak into the balsa wood to create a bit of an eggshell, very thin eggshell, you can go on top of that again with polyfiller with a knife and just put little bits of filler in, and then smooth it out again, and then give it another coat, and repeat until you get a nice smooth finish, like on the Joe 90 plane that we were looking at the other week. That then becomes your delicate but pretty strong shell. I mean, when you look at this part here, this is styrene, it's really thick. But when you're doing all this ergonomic stuff and you can't use styrene, which was basically the front of that Joe 90 plane, it's delicate, and you can dent it. It's soft, but it's not that soft. It creates a shell. Some people would go, oh no, that's no good. I'd have to use resin, fiberglass, something heavy over the top of it. Well, you don't. Like, here's the theory with model making. When you buy a model, like from Product Enterprise, Skydiver, for instance, or any die-cast model, or any plastic model that you make out of a kit, if you drop it, it's going to break. The heavier it is, the harder it's going to fall, and the more impossible it's going to be able to repair. How many, not skydivers, but how many Product Enterprises have I seen models of on eBay with broken this, broken that? They still want a high price because they're just walking around with it, and you drop it. And I've dropped some of my balsa wood models, and they've created little dents, and I've gone, whoa, put a bit of polyfiller in, mask around it a little bit like a car, and I might touch it up with paint. On the show they used to put plasticine in Thunderbird 2 if they dented it when it fell off its wires, just to just to make it get the shot without sending it back to the model shop, because they had it right there on the set. That's not to mean that you lower your standards, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter what you make a model out of, and a lot of people seem to go in this direction in their mindset, is it's got to be strong. No, they're models. You drop them, or you sit on them, as I did, and hesitantly I'm going to show you one that I actually sat on, which I think I talked about. I'm not sure. No, I probably didn't. It was probably a deleted scene from one of my making videos. But if you do break one, you have to be prepared and be able to fix it. But the idea is you hold these things as if they're glass, like you would a glass or cup. You don't sort of fling it around, put it on the edge and let it drop. And that's a really important thing to know, that the strength of the model you make only depends on how you handle it. It's a bit of a myth that a model has to be super strong. Now, if you're doing something really big, like Mama's, beautiful large skydiver, that's a little bit different. He's probably done that with foam resin, some sort of wood underneath, but he's probably created quite a hard surface, because that's a large model. So when you're doing something that's 12, 13, 14 inches, you don't need to do that. When you're doing something 2 or 3 foot, you know, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be a lot easier to just walk around and bump it into something. It's like carrying, you know, a huge log or something. You can't walk around without bumping it into something. So little models, you know, you just hold them in your hand and hopefully you don't drop them. Large models, you've got to plan what you do and where you walk with them, you know, especially something like Skydiver, which has, you know, all its fins and everything that can just snap off with a bump.